Hey, you guys, gals, and bums, and welcome back to A Few Bad Men. Today, we got Kid Twist Zweibach, or Zweibach, or Zeibach. Got about 4 different spellings and pronunciations for this guy's name, but for today's video, we're just going to call him either the Kid or Zweibach. All right, that's the first pronunciation that I have heard. All right. So, in case you guys didn't know who Kid Twist Zeibach was, he was the guy who came after Monk Eastman. Now, a few weeks ago, we did Monk Eastman. If you haven't seen the Monk Eastman video, go back and check it out. All right, you need to do that. And he was before Big Jack Zelik, who we're going to be doing soon. All right, don't worry, I got you guys. Just had to read another book before. I was going to do Big Jack a few weeks ago, and then I got this new book. So I wanted to make sure that I get you guys the whole skinny on Big Jack. All right? So here we go. New York City police officer Cornelius Williams, if I'm not mistaken, is the same cop who was shot along with Kid Dropper, wrote about Max Kid Twist Zweibach in his memoirs. Unflatteringly, he called the kid brutal, double-crossing criminal whose own men hated him. And it's true. The kid could be treacherous and sadistic to those who opposed him, but when it came to his friends and people he cared about, he was loyal without hesitation. Born Maxwell Zweibach in the Austro-Hungarian Empire on March 14th, 1884, to Austrian Jewish father Adolf and Italian mother Hannah. Young Max and his family migrated to New York in 1886 to escape the anti-Semitic riots, settling below the Williamsburg Bridge on Delancey Street. At 9 years old, Max and his family became naturalized U.S. citizens. The kid's father was a tailor, and he even owned a tailor shop. And he had hoped Max would follow in his footsteps. But Max soon realized that he would rather pick pockets than stitch them. Max grew up to be 5 foot 10 inches tall, bigger than the average man at that time, and he had straight black hair that he wore slicked back. Newspaperman George Kybee Turner described the kid in an expose as being a hatchet-faced young Jew. Now, Max had a brother named Kid Sly Fox, or Denny Fox, who became somewhat of a gang leader himself. He was a favorite election enforcer for Tammany Hall and Big Jim Sullivan. The kid was arrested for grand larceny when he was only 15. On June 10th, 1899, a gambler named Joe Kelly parked his bicycle while he went into a store at 33rd and 3rd Avenue. He did take notice of a young man loitering in front of the store, but he didn't give it a second thought. 5 minutes later, when he emerged from the store, his bike was gone, and so was the loitering kid. He reported the theft to the police, and not long after, he was informed that his property had been recovered from a hock shop run by a guy named Baker. Now, Baker turned the kid in. The kid had taken the bike to a shop to have it re-enameled and nickel-plated before selling it to Baker. On June 19th, the kid appeared before a judge. And when he was asked what his occupation was, he replied, bicycles. He pleaded not guilty to the charge of grand larceny. But because he was under 16, the judge committed him to the custody of New York Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, until a family friend was able to pay the $500 bail required. And he was released. Now, the records don't show if he served any time or not, or Kelly may have been offered compensation from Max's father, or the punishment may have just been a fine, but we don't know. The kid graduated from larceny to murder on August 17th, 1903, when him and a pal named Thomas Biff Comiskey were trying to find relief from the stifling summer day in New York. And they were hanging out around one of their favorite hangouts, William Salzman's Candy and Cigar Store at 98 Gork Street. Now, Salzman left the kid in charge of the store while he stepped away to run some errands. And while he was gone, a guy named Bayard, also known as Muggsy. Muggsy is a stereotype. This guy's got a stereotypical gangster name. All right. He came in with about 4 or 5 of his friends, and after a while, a card game was started that ended badly for Muggsy. Muggsy and the kid got into an argument, and insults were thrown back and forth until the anger reached its boiling point and guns were drawn. When the cops arrived, the kid was gone and Muggsy was laying on the shop floor with an arm broken by a bullet and another bullet lodged in his gut. When they asked, who shot you, Muggsy? He snarled, "Never mind. I'll get even. I won't tell." But he never got even, because he died later that night at Gouverneur Hospital. The kid fled to Jersey to hide out from the cops and Muggsy's friends who would be looking for get back. He was staying in Jersey with family when his brother, Kid Sly Fox, who obviously had talked with some of the witnesses, urged his brother to turn himself in. The kid turned himself in to Detective Woodall of the Union Market Station, and he was held on a charge of murder. The charges were eventually dropped after Biff and other witnesses swore that Muggsy fired the first shot. After beating the Bayard murder, the kid felt as though he had the means and connections to thumb his nose at the law and get away with it. He was ready to meet all opposition and obstacles with violence, and he started to amass followers and proclaimed himself the heir to Monk Eastman in 1904. Now, the kid felt as though the throne to the Lower East Side belonged to him. But another former Eastman gangster and a guy who also went by the name of Kid had other ideas. Now, Richie Kid Kirkpatrick didn't change his name like Paul Kelly or Monk Eastman to gain favor with the Irish politicians who ran New York. He was born of an Irish father and an American mother. Right. He once worked on the docks as a stevedore and also spent some time as a labor slugger, and that's when he discovered he had a talent for organizing men into battle groups. In the 1890s, he ran a dive bar at 9 Bowery. He had so many guys hanging around that bar that it made him a leader of his own small gang, as well as an Eastman underling. Now, during this time, a gang of arsonists tried to put the squeeze on Kid Fitzpatrick. They tried to make him pay protection money, a shakedown. When he wouldn't comply, they even burned a few stables that he owned, as well as another property. But all this came to an end when members of the arsonist gang started to disappear. After that, people stayed out of the way of Kid Fitzpatrick. Because of his own gang and putting in years of work for Monk, Kid Fitzpatrick saw himself as the rightful heir to the Eastman throne. And as he saw it, the kid Zweibach was an upstart. Yeah, he was dangerous and shrewd, but an upstart either way. Now, the two gangsters knew they couldn't engage in open battle in the street because it would bring too much heat from the police and the press, and it would erode away their political support. It would also weaken the Eastman gang, allowing rivals to move in. So the two kids decided to share the top spot, but neither guy was happy with the arrangement, and neither thought it would last. The truce lasted until October 30th, 1904, when Fitzpatrick shot a Kid Twist guy named Thomas McCauley in the hip during a fight in a saloon. McCauley had started the fight, and he survived the shooting. This was the opportunity that Kid Twist was waiting for. He invited Fitzpatrick to meet him at a bar at 77th Sheriff Street on November 1st. Now, the kid called this meeting saying that they needed to come up with a damage control plan before McCauley's guys came looking for revenge and making bad press for everybody. All right, now, this may have made sense to Fitzpatrick because the election was only a week away and they were needed by Tammany to bring out the votes. At the meeting, a guy named Harris Starr started tearing into Fitzpatrick for shooting McCauley. All the hostility that had built up for months between the two factions now came to a boil. Fitzpatrick sensed that he was being put on the spot. He knew that raised voices to one's face was a prelude to bullets. He got up and hurried from the place, but Starr followed him outside and shots rang out. 2 to be exact. One hit Fitzpatrick over the heart and he collapsed on the sidewalk where he died before he could be taken to the hospital. An officer named David Meyer of the Delancey Street Station heard the shot and arrived in time to see Starr toss his piece and scram. He chased Starr through the crowded street for a block before he tackled him and placed him under arrest. Now back at the station, when the word came that Fitzpatrick had died, Starr was charged with murder. The case went to trial in February 1905. But when witnesses changed their story on the stand and couldn't remember who shot Fitzpatrick, the judge ordered the jury to return a not guilty verdict. And Starr strolled out of the courtroom a free man. Now, if you guys remember from the Johnny Spanish video I did a few weeks back, I explained what the Stutz game was and the way it worked. All right, you need to go check that Johnny Spanish video out if you have not already. The way it was for Johnny, it was the same way for Kid Twist. He not only extorted Stutz games, he extorted dice games and even crap games. He would usually enter a crap game or Stutz game and he would say, "I want $50. What, you're not gonna cough it up? I'll shoot this damn place up." And he usually left with what he requested. But the kid felt like this type of small-time hustle was beneath him. And in the winter of 1904, he had a scheme to defraud the New York Central Railroad of thousands of dollars. Him and a couple of buddies, Isidore Hoffman and Seymour Singer, who went in the printing business, and the third guy, Albert Newman, printed 4,000 phony train passes and sold them to scalpers to sell to passengers before they bought legitimate tickets. The plot was discovered, and in March of 1905, the police had enough evidence to arrest Twist and his 3 co-conspirators, and they were arrested on the morning of March 16th and brought before a magistrate who gave them each a $2,000 bail and ordered them to be held in the tombs until it was posted. Newman was the first to crack. He told the cops about the scheme and even took them to the print shop and gave them the plates and type used in the forgeries. After a few lives were threatened, none of the 3 would testify against the kid. So his charges were dropped and he walked out a free man. Now, Kid Twist continued to add to his strength and expand his extortion, gambling, and forgery rackets. He either absorbed or destroyed his competition. Anytime word got back to him that someone had a successful racket, a card game, or craps, he moved in to assess the value, and if it was to his liking, he claimed it for himself. A guy named Charles Greenwich found that out the hard way. They called him the bottler on the streets because he once worked in a soda bottling factory. All right, the bottler was associated with the Five Pointers, and he was making good money from a Stutz game he ran at 65 Suffolk Street. Maybe the bottler was successful because of his generosity. All right, he had a house policy that said any player who calls it a night will get 10% of his losses back. Later, he began giving 15% back. This kept his place packed with players every day of the week. With no concern about the Five Pointers, Kid Twist approached Greenwich and let him know that from now on, he will be splitting his earnings 50-50 with Harry Starr, who is now his new partner. Now the bottler was angry but not stupid. He wasn't happy about losing half his game, and he knew if he reached out for help from his Five Pointers, he would still have to look over his shoulder for the rest of his short life. This went on for a few weeks, and then the kid showed what little respect he had for Greenwich by sending word that the bottler was out of his own game, and the Twist minion named the Nailer would be taking his share. Greenwich responded by closing the game to the public and only allowing a few trusted people in to play. Now this failed to deter the kid, and on the night of May 31st, Detective Valentine O'Farrell was passing the Suffolk Street address just as the standoff was commencing. Harry Starr was standing in front of the closed door with a pistol in his hand, while Greenwich stood on the other side of the door, also armed. The detective drew his weapon and arrested Starr, and Greenwich complied when ordered to come outside by the officer. They were both arrested, and the judge fined them both $5 plus costs. Then they were released. Now, the whole time they were locked up, Starr was threatening to kill Greenwich. All right, seething. All right, and it all came to a head the following evening when Starr and Greenwich ran into each other at the corner of Suffolk and Broome Streets. Once again, Starr's raised voice was a prelude to shots ringing out. Greenwich slumped to the sidewalk while Starr tossed his gun, made tracks out of there. He was later arrested, but was released when no witnesses could be found to say that he fired the fatal shot. Now, the kid had a pal named Samuel Pristrick. All right, and he was a Austrian Jew, just like Zweibach. He had arrived in the United States in 1902 at the age of 16. He went by the name of Cyclone Louis. He was a professional strongman who earned extra cash by wowing Coney Island crowds with feats of strength. It's also said that on a bet, he would grab a stranger walking down the street and bend him over his knee and break his back just for fun. That's how strong this kid Cyclone Louis was. He also carried a pistol for Kid Twist. Right? He was his bodyguard. And the guys were so close that him, the two guys, and their wives shared a residence at 256 Sacman Street in Brownsville, Brooklyn. So now the kid's reign only lasted about 2.5 years. Because on May 14th, 1908, Zweibach and Cyclone Louis went to Coney Island for a day of recreation. While they were there, Kid Twist won the attention of a singer named Carol Terry. Terry was the former living lover of another gangster, a guy named Louis Paggi, who was affiliated with Jack Sirocco and Chick Tricker. They were two Italian gangsters down on the Lower East Side who constantly had beef with the Eastmans. I'm gonna do a whole thing with them. Don't worry. All right. Now, she used to live with Louis Paggi, who went by the name of Louis the Lump. All right. But she moved out of Paggi's place and accepted a singing job outside of New York. But she returned when Coney Island resorts opened for the summer season. Paggi tried to rekindle the flame and get Carol to move back in with him. But after she declined, he took the stalk on her. On this particular day, Kid Twist and Cyclone Louis caught Terry's show at the Imperial Music Hall and invited the singer to join them for drinks. After a while, Miss Terry grabbed a girlfriend and the foursome went out to dinner. All the while, they were under the jealous eye of Louis the Lump. And after the meal, the two couples emerged from the restaurant, arm in arm, walking along the boardwalk. But when they got in front of the South Brooklyn Hotel, the lobby was decked out with decorative bunting and a large floral arrangement to celebrate its reopening under new management. All of a sudden, Paggi stepped out of the doorway and shots rang out. With bullets in their heads and bodies, the two gangsters stumbled into the lobby of the hotel and dropped dead. Now, in his rage, Paggi even hit his love. All right, Miss Terry dropped to the boardwalk with a bullet in her shoulder. Paggi escaped, but was captured a short time later after his former girlfriend identified him as the shooter. That next fall, Louis the Lump went on trial. Now, even though his lawyers figured that they could get him acquitted by pleading self-defense, because young Paggi had no record, and his victims were two notorious underworld figures who had put the word out they wanted him dead. They instead told the gangster to plead guilty to manslaughter and go to jail for a year to avoid any vengeful acts of surviving members of the Kid Twist gang. Louis took his lawyer's advice, and on October 7th, he was sent away to Elmira Reformatory to carry out his sentence. And that, my friends, is the straight dope on Max Kid Twist Zweibach. All right. I hope you guys enjoy the story as much as I enjoy telling it. All right. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you go down there. I need you to go down there and wrap that subscribe button in the mouth real good one time for me. All right. Break that thumb. Share the video. Put the word out. You know, if you like the videos I do, you can help out. You want to support a little bit, you can help out by going to fewbadmengear.com and purchasing some shirts or a coffee mug or something like that. All right? It's been a few bad men. Keep your nose clean and don't take any wood nickels. I see you in the funnies.